just want to talk about a program that I started. I think it's kind of a unique program. We always in this country have to take care of our veterans. That is what we do. That's who we are. And because of the freedom and liberties we have now, I mean, it's because of the veterans.
Exactly.
The veterans, and it's the generation, and they can be proud, and we have to take care of them. And I think what I found out is that a lot of the troops coming back from Iraq for their 2 weeks of R&R, recreation, they come home for 2 weeks, and they were being dropped off at BWI Airport. And I would go to visit them and say, thanks for your service. Well, I found out, I'd say, what can I do to help? They said, well, I live in California, and I've got to pay my own way. I said, what? You're coming home, and you know, you've left your job to fight for our country, and you have to pay your own way. Well, I could not get, at that time, the Bush administration to put money in the budget to help pay for these troops to go home and come back to go back to Iraq. So I used common sense and worked with my staff, and we started a program called Operation Hero Miles, where I literally went to all the major airlines and asked them to let me market their frequent flyer mile customers and have the people who had frequent flyer miles donate them back so the troops could go home for free.
Yeah.
And I went close to about 50 national talk shows. I went on Greta Van Susteren. And in 6 months, and this shows how patriotic the country is, 6 months we were able to have over 520 million frequent flyer miles donated.
Wow.
So over 22,000 troops did not have to pay. Eventually, I think we really shamed the administration, and they put it in the budget. And so that was a program, though, where you use common sense, you use the media, and people just wanted a way to help the troops, and they did. And that's very important. And, you know, whatever your position is about the war, and whether you're for it or against it, whether you think it's the right way to go, whatever, and there are a lot of issues out there, believe me.
Oh, yeah.
I can talk about that for a long time, but I know we don't have a lot of time here. But it's most important when the men and women who are fighting for our country, we need to support them. We need to give them the equipment, we need to give them protection and the medical care, not only over in Iraq and Afghanistan, but also you know, when they come back, because that's when a lot of them, you know, they lose their arms, their legs, their post-traumatic stress syndrome.
Right.
Maryland Shock Trauma, by the way, trains a lot of paramedics and nurses that go to Iraq, and I've said that before. The other committee I'm on, by the way, and I'm telling you this because it's what I do when I represent you. I was very lucky, because it takes a long time to get on the Appropriations Committee.
Right.
But I was lucky to get on pretty early in my career in Congress. And the Appropriations Committee is the committee that decides where the money goes. Okay. And what my role is to make sure we get the resources in my district and our state, just as much as any other state. We are in a very unique state. You have what they call BRAC, base closers, these bases that close to save money. And Aris Melissa Rodis, who was the head of economic development under Ehrlich, and I worked very hard to bring the BRAC jobs to Maryland. My district includes Fort Meade, NSA, Port of Baltimore, BWI Airport, Thurgood Marshall, BWI Airport, and Aberdeen. We probably have more high-paying jobs coming to my district than any place in the country.
Right.
And the good news, we were able to talk to the commission and persuade them to bring these jobs to my district. But with that means we have to put millions of dollars into infrastructure, make sure that we do not negatively impact on existing residential and business communities. We have the proper roads, and we have to have mass transit. We have to have schools. We have to have quality of life issues. So I've been able to, with the help of Senator Barbara Mikulski, who's on the Appropriations Committee on the Senate, and the rest of our Maryland delegation, Cardin and Sarbanes and Cummings and Cradaville, we've been able to come together as a team. And Roscoe Bartlett, by the way, we're very nonpartisan when it comes to this, to help our state. And there's a lot of resources that are coming into our state because of our roles on the Appropriations Committee.
I think that's one of the great things about a lot of the administration with the state of Maryland is party lines are not an issue. I think I've noticed that a lot in the last couple of years, that for a lot of you, the party lines don't seem to make an issue. It really is, we're working to better Maryland, and that's the important factor.
It's a matter of philosophy. I know that when I got into politics, I represented a Republican area, even though I was a Democrat. But I guess I got a lot of support from Republicans, or I wouldn't have won a county council years ago in the 80s. Right. And I believe that once the voters have spoken, you work together. Unfortunately, in Washington, it's very partisan now, and I don't like it. The partisan politics is way out of hand. Our forefathers created a great system of government, except for one thing, having us, I believe, run every 2 years. Because now, an example with the health care bill, if the Republicans would have been more involved in the health care bill, we would have had a better bill. but they felt that they had a political issue that would say, we can win on this, we can get the majority back. And by the way, the Democrats the same way. When we were in the minority, we would hold back and not work with them. And that's not what it's about. In Maryland, we don't have that. I mean, we're lucky we have Steny Hoyer, who's the majority leader. We have a good team that come together and work together. You had, there used to be 2 Republican members of Congress.
Right.
And you know, we always will work together for what is right. A lot of politics should be about relationships and trust, and not about the nonstop partisan politics. And that's why a lot of Congress gets bad ratings in polls, because they don't work together. People want results. They want you to take care of their national security, of their schools, of their infrastructure. Make sure that our military is strong so that we will have our freedom and liberties. Right. So that's our philosophy in Maryland, and we're going to keep going ahead with it.
Now, you talked a lot about your Operation Hero Miles, and you showed that you're really taking care of our current military. But one of the other groups that you're also taking care of is previous military members, veterans.
Oh, that's important.
You have been really key in working with new legislation that has to do with caregivers of veterans. Why don't you talk a little bit more about what you're doing to really help them out?
Well, first thing, I have a Veterans Advisory Group. That's one of the first things that I did. My district has a lot of senior citizens and a lot of veterans. So we try to deal with the issues, and they're important, a lot of it medical. Working again with the Maryland delegation. And we've been able to get more money to veterans, really since the Democrats have been in the majority in the history of the country, because of the commitment that we made to seniors starting in World War I, even before that, to take care of your veterans. And as our veterans get older, they have more health problems. So we need to stay on top of that, because veterans just weren't being taken care of. But you also have to take care, I said it before, of the men and women who've been injured in Iraq and Afghanistan. What does it say to them when they are being hurt and they're not taken care of? And some of the horror stories that you heard early on, but that's not happening anymore. So the helping veterans in a lot of different ways. I have a really active Veterans Committee, and that Veterans Committee gives awards out every year. And there's so many volunteers that stand up and help other veterans. When I was a Baltimore County executive, one of my high priorities was education and public safety, but it was also the issue of senior. We have one of the best senior programs in the country. And one of the reasons is because our seniors didn't come to be waited on in our senior centers. They were volunteers. They put in thousands and thousands of volunteer hours. My mother, Peggy Ruppersberger, worked for the Department of Aging. She's now, by the way, at Edenwald. And I want to tell this story because I know some people here know her, that they asked her to run for president. She is president of Edenwald. My mother, at 88 years old, is the president of Edenwald.
Following your footsteps,
well,
getting
well,
some politics in.
She calls me for advice a lot. But my mother and father always, my father was a veteran, wanted our family to put back in the community. And I think that's very important. It makes your community stronger.
And another big topic that I know has been an issue, in the last couple of years, and you brought it up just a minute ago, was healthcare.
I really want to talk to the citizens about healthcare. The healthcare bill is not a perfect bill.
No.
It was a very contentious bill, and unfortunately, a lot of false information was put out on healthcare. And I think it's really important that we do get to the facts, especially as it relates to seniors. This healthcare bill is a good bill for seniors. Now, let me explain why. First thing, this issue of pulling the plug on Granny, it's just not true.
Right.
It's in the language in the bill that if you have existing coverage now, that coverage will not change, or you will not have worse coverage. But the main issues that help seniors, number one, if you have a certain insurance company, and that insurance company says that you've spent this much money, they can drop you because there's a cap. So there are no caps anymore. So no matter what your medical expenses are, you will never be dropped anymore.
Now with these caps, we're not talking about you're not talking about you hit the cap and they don't have to pay for anymore. We're saying they can completely drop you?
That's the way it is now.
Wow.
And that happens a lot. That's why there are a lot of people that are uninsured, especially from the age of 50 and up. So there'll be no more dropping. Once you're with your insurance company, if you happen to have a dialysis, a heart problem, and you spend a lot of money and you hit a certain level, they can drop you. Well, that's not going to happen anymore. It's very important.